Bett, political correspondent at The Sun, and the journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth. So very good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
And as you will expect, the story of the sex offender who was freed too early, or rather freed when he should have gone into a detention centre, making a lot of headlines once again because he's still not been found. Martina, kick us off with this. This is on the front of the Sunday Telegraph, and they are actually talking about an interview that Sky News got yesterday.
That's right. Really remarkable that he still has not been found. He's in London. According to the witness that you interviewed, a delivery driver, he said that he tried to turn himself in a couple of times because
he kept going back. He was confused about why he'd been released.
I mean, he probably would be. And he was given £76 as all the prisoners that gets released do. And then he was told to just head for the train station. And it's just incredibly remarkable that he has not been found yet, because he's been seen in London, in North London, in Dalston. He's still wearing his prison tracksuit. He's wearing, I think he's carrying a bag with avocados on it. That's what the Met Police have said. And despite all the live face recognition technology that we've got, is still out there. And obviously the story is incredibly damaging for the government, because obviously, you know, this was a mistake from the prison service. It's something that actually has happened a few times. It's gone up, the amount of people that get released wrongly by officers. But, you know, we've seen Nigel Farage saying that, you know, the UK's once trusted institutions are disintegrating before our eyes. And he's just, what this symbolises is Britain, a country that is not working, that when, you know, there's prisoners that should be deported because the migrant should have been deported after being found guilty of 5 sexual offences, should have gone back to Ethiopia, but instead he got given money, is now somewhere that only can be found.
Well, yes, and as you say, since discussing this story, we do learn that it's more common than you think that prisoners do get wrongly released. But this prisoner of all people is the government's worst nightmare, isn't it? Because it is the focus of so much heat over the summer.
I mean, on the one hand, you know, in most ways, this doesn't have anything to do with the government. It's an administrative mistake that's pretty serious by somebody whose name we'll probably never know. It's not the responsibility of the government ministers to deal with something this minutiae.
The Justice Secretary is in charge of all of that, though, isn't he?
Indeed, but I'm sure they're not checking sort of the thousands of people that go in and out. And yet it is a massive problem because it crosses the 3 big things, which is anger at migrant numbers and people that don't seem to be following the rules, a sense that law and order isn't enforced, and a sense that Britain is a country where basic things just don't work. And so it all collides in this story where, you know, the government isn't directly responsible for this, and yet it epitomises the things that make people angry at the government. So, you know, I can imagine that there was pretty furious conversations when this emerged. And then we just looked totally farcical. It would appear this guy wasn't trying to run off because he went back 4 or 5 times to the prison, and still they didn't pick up on it. Still they didn't work it out. And now you've got a guy walking around East London with avocados in the outfit he left prison in, and they can't find him. And so, you know, I think while this isn't about a government minister's mistake, it epitomises why people are frustrated with Britain.
It also focuses people's attention back on the issue of asylum seekers, and the Sunday Express picks up on this story. And this in a week where the government's one of the agreements that they've carved out since coming into office is this one in, one out policy with France, and then this week we've seen one in, one out. Back in again. And now the Sunday Express talking about the issue of housing these asylum seekers. They're suggesting that more councils will have to carry the burden.
Right. We know that the Labour government wants to shut down all the hotels that are at great expense of the taxpayer. I think just for one night only it cost £144, whereas housing migrants in dispersal accommodation is something like £23, £24 a night. So that's what they're trying to do. But of course, people are not very happy about asylum seekers getting housed in HMOs, housed in multiple occupancy, in councils, directly in town centres. There were lots of talk over summer about council not wanting actually to house migrants in town centres, in the heart of communities. And it's a pickle for the government, because where are they going to put 60,000 more? I think we're talking about 66,000 people. We know that the government is in talk with other departments like the MOD to get accommodation on MOD
Military
sites,
bases
military
and,
bases, or actually there was a story in The Sunday we did a couple of weeks ago because they're in discussion to have pop-up sites similar to what the MOD does in foreign countries for our soldiers. But it's not something that is going to get done quickly. And in the meantime, the Sunday Express picks this up, is that the number of council housing migrants in homes, in dispersal accommodation, is going to go up in the next few months.
So again, the attention will focus on asylum seekers, and that's uncomfortable for the government when the small boats are still crossing in higher numbers than last year.
Yeah, I think the number of migrants in hotels has fallen in the last 12, 18 months, however long it is since the Labour government came in. But we've also seen, I think it was this week, that the number of people who've come across in small boats is higher this year than it was last year. So clearly the problem isn't going to go away. And I think now you've got a sort of real sense of momentum among a section of society who are angry, who are going out and protesting. And so you've got a situation where you have to put these people somewhere and you have to keep them safe because we're a civilised country. And yet you've got councils increasingly rejecting taking them, trying to make it difficult, getting more expensive. And you think there is no short-term solution to this. The only solution is to try and process their asylum cases faster, which I think the government has hired many more caseworkers and the time has sped up. But if you've got more people coming over every week, then the problem will continue.
And as you mentioned, you know, the one-in, one-out deal this week that Keir Starmer's government kept telling us that it's going to be a deterrent, and then the migrant came back in only after weeks after arriving. Again, epitomises, as you were saying before, the stories, just this sense that that the government is not in control, which is what the British people would like to see.
Let's move on to the back to the Telegraph. Actually, their front page story, Benjamin. Starmer told to bin workers' rights, and you might expect some newspapers to take that line, but this is actually from a think tank that's very close to the Labour Party.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So the Resolution Foundation, which is where one of the ministers, Torsten Bell, used to run this foundation. There's many MPs in the Labour Parliamentary Party who come from this background, who are involved in this group. It's on the centre-left. And it's saying that the workers' rights reforms that were put forward by Angela Rayner, and that's things like the right to unfair dismissal rights on day one, that this would be a disaster for the jobs market, that it would cost employers a lot of money with all the legal cases, that it would make them less likely to take on new workers because the risk is greater. And so the Resolution Foundation is warning that Labour should backtrack from this. Now, a source has told the Sunday Telegraph that in Downing Street they are desperately trying to backpedal, that they're trying to water down these consequences so that it looks like something similar to what they proposed, but actually won't be. And I think this will be quite difficult. It's giving me echoes of the failed welfare vote, because workers' rights, like social security, are quite sensitive issues for Labour politicians. It's a big part of why they want to be Labour MPs, why they want to be in government. And so I think this could be a real challenge for Keir Starmer if they are to water that down, to get that past many of the backbenchers.
And of course, this was Angela Rayner's big push, wasn't it? We don't have a huge amount of time, but do you think it will survive, but in a much reduced form?
Not in its current form.
No.
It will be watered down, I think. After hearing from lots of people in Downing Street, this can't go ahead.
Right.
In its form. And, you know, what you were saying, that it's not just like what Labour represents, but it's also part of their manifesto. It was one of the biggest things of their manifesto. So going back on it, very damaging.
Yeah. Difficult times for the government. We've got lots more to talk about in the next hour when you'll be back then. Thanks very much indeed for now.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered.